September 2025, after nearly 40 years, a little girl finally got her name back. For decades, investigators called her only one thing: the middle child. No birth certificate, no missing persons report, no family searching for her, no identity, just a tiny skeleton hidden inside a rusted steel barrel deep in the woods of New Hampshire. For almost 4 decades, nobody knew who she was. But her story was only one piece of a mystery so disturbing that it changed the way police solve cold cases forever. Because buried in those woods wasn't just one victim, there were four lives erased, 4 families torn apart, and one serial killer who spent years hiding behind stolen names, fake identities, and a trail of disappearances stretching across America. For years, the case seemed impossible to solve. Police had no names, no witnesses, no murder weapon, no suspects, only barrels, bones, and silence. But what happened next changed criminal investigations forever. Because ordinary people, working from computers hundreds of miles away, helped unlock secrets that detectives had chased for decades. This is the story of the Bear Brook Murders. November 10, 1985. Bear Brook State Park, Allenstown, New Hampshire. It was supposed to be an ordinary day in the woods. A group of hunters walked through an isolated section of forest. One of them noticed something unusual: a rusted metal barrel. It looked abandoned, old, forgotten. Curiosity brought them closer. But when they looked inside, they discovered something horrifying: human bones. Police rushed to the scene. Inside the barrel, investigators found the skeletal remains of an adult woman and a young girl. Both had been carefully placed inside before the barrel was dumped deep in the forest. Who were they? Nobody knew. How long had they been there? Years. Who killed them? Nobody had the answer. The forest had protected its secret for far too long. The medical examiner worked carefully. The victims had been dead for years. Nature had erased almost every clue. There were no fingerprints, no clothing that could easily identify them. Investigators determined the woman was likely in her 20s. The child appeared to be between 8 and 10 years old. Both had suffered violent deaths. The cause: blunt force trauma. Police searched missing persons reports across New Hampshire. Nothing matched. Then they searched neighboring states. Still nothing. Months became years. Years became decades. Eventually, the investigation slowed. The victims remained unknown. The killer remained free, and the barrel in Bear Brook became one of New Hampshire's most haunting mysteries. But something wasn't right, because investigators had no idea. They had only found half of the victims. For 15 long years, the woods remained quiet. Detectives never stopped hoping for a breakthrough. But every lead ended the same way: nothing. Then, in the spring of 2000, a state trooper decided to revisit the original crime scene. It was a decision that would completely change the investigation. Walking through the same patch of forest, he noticed another object hidden beneath leaves and brush. Another rusted barrel, only about 300 feet away from the first one. His heart sank, because deep down, he already knew what he was about to find. Inside were the skeletal remains of 2 little girls, 2 innocent children abandoned in another barrel. The discovery shocked investigators. Who would kill entire families? Why separate the victims into 2 barrels? And why leave them in the same forest? Police believed every answer was connected. They just didn't know how. There were 4 victims, but none of them had names. Without identities, there were no families to interview, no friends to question, no timeline to reconstruct. It was as if these 4 people had never existed. And that was exactly what their killer wanted. Years passed. The forest remained silent. The victims remained nameless. And the killer, if he was still alive, had disappeared without a trace. For investigators, every lead ended the same way. No missing persons report matched the victims. No fingerprints identified them. But the detectives assigned to Bear Brook refused to give up. They waited for science to catch up. And that decision would eventually change everything. By the early 2000s, DNA technology had advanced dramatically. Investigators began testing evidence that had been impossible to analyze years earlier. The victim's DNA revealed something important. The adult woman, the older girl, and the youngest girl were biologically related. They were a mother and her 2 daughters. But the 4th child, the little girl found in the second barrel, was not related to them. That discovery stunned investigators. Why would one unrelated child be buried alongside an entire family? Who was she? And where was her family? Police had no idea. They had just uncovered an even bigger mystery. Then came the breakthrough no one expected. But from the internet, investigators partnered with experts in investigative genetic genealogy, a method that compares DNA from unidentified victims to relatives who have voluntarily shared their genetic information through genealogy databases. Branch by branch, they rebuilt family histories that had been forgotten for decades. And what happened next changed cold case investigations forever. In 2017, another breakthrough arrived. Investigators finally identified the man they believed was responsible. His real name was Terry Petter Rasmussen, but most people had never heard that name, because Rasmussen rarely used it. Throughout his life, he constantly changed identities. Bob Evans, Curtis Kimball, Gordon Jensen, Larry Vanna, and several other aliases. Every time he moved, he became someone else. Every new town meant a new name, a new job, a new relationship, a new opportunity to disappear. That earned him a chilling nickname, the Chameleon Killer. Authorities believe Rasmussen targeted vulnerable women. He would enter their lives, gain their trust, isolate them from friends and family, and then they would disappear. In 2010, Rasmussen died in a California prison while serving a sentence for the murder of his girlfriend, Boon Soon Jun. Investigators weren't finished. They still had one mission: give the victims their names back. In 2019, after decades of uncertainty, 3 victims were finally identified. The adult woman was Marlies Elizabeth Honey Church. She was just 24 years old. The older child was her 9-year-old daughter, Marie Elizabeth Vaughn. The youngest was 2-year-old Sarah Lynn McWatters. Investigators learned that Marlies had last been seen in California in 1978. She had introduced Rasmussen to members of her family as her boyfriend shortly before disappearing. No one realized that meeting would be the last time they would ever see her. One mystery remained: who was the little girl found alone in the second barrel? For years, investigators searched for her identity. Every DNA comparison, every genealogy record, every family tree, nothing matched. Then, in September 2025, the final piece of the puzzle finally fell into place. The little girl was identified as Ray Rasmussen. She wasn't Marlies' daughter. She was Terry Rasmussen's biological daughter. She was believed to have been born in California in 1976. For almost 40 years, no one knew who she was. Now, she finally had her name back. But that discovery created another haunting question. If Ray was Rasmussen's daughter, what happened to her mother? Investigators believe Ray's mother, Pepper Reed, disappeared in the late 1970s and may also have been murdered by Rasmussen. Her case remains unsolved. Authorities also continue searching for Denise Bowden, another woman connected to Rasmussen who vanished after living with him in New Hampshire. Today, the Bear Brook murders are no longer a story about unidentified victims. They are a story about persistence, about science, about investigators who refuse to let a cold case grow cold forever, and about a new generation of forensic techniques that transformed criminal investigations. DNA, family tree research, and the determination of investigators and genealogy experts helped solve a mystery that once seemed impossible. The victims finally have names. The killer has been identified, but not every question has been answered. How many women did Terry Rasmussen really kill? Were there other victims who have never been found? Did he use identities investigators still haven't uncovered? Those questions continue to drive investigators today. For nearly 40 years, these 4 victims were known only by where they were found. Today, they are remembered by their names. Their story changed the future of forensic science. It reminded investigators that even when decades pass, the truth can still be uncovered. Sometimes, justice doesn't arrive quickly. Sometimes, it takes an entire generation. But as long as someone keeps searching, hope remains alive. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more deeply researched true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind some of history's most chilling cases, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation. And tell us in the comments, do you think there are still unidentified victims connected to Terry Rasmussen, or will every secret he buried remain hidden forever? Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and remember, even the coldest cases can still speak if someone is willing to listen.